everyone, I'm Justin and welcome to my first YouTube video. So I'm here today to share a bit about how I applied for NUS Overseas Colleges, Silicon Valley, and how I got in. And for this YouTube video in particular, I will be sharing about how I got in as well as the different steps I took for the application process. In fact, actually right now as I'm sharing this, I'm on the NUS Overseas Colleges program itself, currently based in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, California. And it's really been an interesting journey all the way here. So the purpose of this video actually is that many of my friends, especially friends interested in entrepreneurship, have been just asking me a lot of questions about how to get into NOC, as well as the different application processes that they went through. And I understand, especially as a person that was quite nervous about the process itself, that it might be a bit tough, and there's a lot of conflicting instructions that you hear from a lot of people about how to get in, as well as the different aspects of the application process that may be sounding particularly tough, especially for the interview process. So what I'm trying to do here today is to explain all of it at one go, perhaps share some of the tips that I have in mind in your application process, and really just wish all of you good luck in your NOC application process. In fact, as I'm recording this, I have, from what I know from friends, as well as what I've seen from the application deadline, in Singapore, there are about 2 days left to apply for the program. So that's particularly why I came up with this too. And I really want to wish all of you all the best for this incoming intake. Okay, so to start off, firstly, what is NUS Overseas Colleges about? NUS Overseas Colleges, or NOC for short, is an internship that you take overseas under NUS Enterprise that is based specifically in a startup or in a firm that deals closely with startups, such as a venture capital firm. The purpose of NUS Overseas Colleges is for you to immerse yourself into the startup culture overseas, learn more about entrepreneurship, and to nurture your entrepreneurial qualities after going overseas and taking a look at what the startup ecosystem is like. Ultimately, the aim of NOC is for you to come back and to focus on your own startup idea and possibly create your own business once you've come back and have the know-how as well as knowledge of entrepreneurial qualities as well as the startup ecosystem overseas. To elaborate more, I shall make things simpler by classifying things into an intake period as well as an application period. The application period is when you start applying for NOC itself, and the intake is when you fly. So for January and July, these will be categorized as intake periods. And for July's intake period, the application is in January, selection is in February, company interviews and briefings are in April to June, and finally you embark on the program at end July. For January's intake period, the application starts all the way back in August, selection is in September, interviews are from October to November, and finally the program starts in December. I will be elaborating more about what these mean in the next video, but for now, the main 2 points to take note of are firstly that COVID can actually play a very huge role in the timings. From what I know, Silicon Valley, we were actually very fortunate to be able to fly all the way here thanks to the Green Lane and VTL. However, for some of the 6 months programs that I know, such as NOC Ho Chi Minh, they were not allowed to fly and have to do their internship remotely from Singapore at home. Another point to take note of is the timing. While I have mentioned this rough outline, and NUS Overseas Colleges has also given this rough outline, it is important to take note that this may not be set in stone. The timings are extremely flexible, not so much of the application process, but more of the later on, especially in terms of interviews, because it really depends on the speed of which your companies interview you, as well as the visa application. Along with that, the timing at which you fly may not be necessarily the time at which the program starts. This is because the timing at which the program starts will be earlier due to the fact that you have to complete a workshop in Singapore first for both the 6-month program and the year-long one. However, the timing at which you fly could be much later and most likely will be. For instance, I took the workshop in December, however, most of my batch only flew in January. Reason being is that most of us were settling things like the visa up until the very last few days. And also on top of that, we wanted to say goodbye to loved ones too before we left for 1 year. Okay, so now we move into my most favorite part of the video and the main part of it too, which is applying for NOC itself. How do you go about doing it? So, as for the technical process, the first thing that you need to do is to go into EduRec, go into academics, then global education, and choose the NOC program that you are applying for. There are 6 categories that you need to fulfill after that, and the first one to jump right into it is application information. For application information, what you need to do is just take a look at the briefings that they give inside. It lists out the NOC interview timing period, of which you need to choose one later on. You need to submit a couple of documents. So it tells you that you need to submit your CV, your transcript, at least 2 recommendation letters, and you will also have to take note of the interview timing and watch your email for later on dates as well as a confirmation of your interview timing. They will also give some timings that you need to take note of in the sense of the workshop timings as well as multiple briefings later on that you need to be very aware of and free up your time for in the case that you get accepted. So the next thing you need to do in the list of categories is the program application. In this, what you need to do is to list out your top few choices of college and the country that you would like to go to. You need to defend as well as explain your choices and why you rank them in that order. For me, what I did was I wanted to go for 2 things. The first thing was to go for a year-long NOC, and the second thing was I was interested particularly in the tech scene, such as things like metaverse as well as blockchain, and coming back eventually and hopefully starting up my own tech startup. So to elaborate a bit more about this, what I did was I listed it as Silicon Valley, Shanghai, and followed by Munich. Reason being is that all of these are quite closely related to tech in Asia, America, and Europe. And why I went with the first 2 choices instead of Munich as the first one was because both of the first 2 are 1 year. I felt that Silicon Valley finally made it to the top because it was far enough from home such that I'll be able to immerse myself in the whole tech and startup culture scene there. And on top of that, it also did feel like Silicon Valley has a certain reputation. Yeah. So another thing that they will ask you is for your personal statement. And this comprises about 1,500 words, 1.5k. And what you need to do is simply summarize your entrepreneurial aspirations inside, as well as why you will feel you would benefit from the program. So to elaborate a bit more about these, the entrepreneurial aspirations that you have, generally what they are looking for will be something along the lines of being able to create and immerse yourself in the startup scene and having entrepreneurial qualities such as initiative, maybe even having built a business before. Yeah. Also, why you feel you would benefit from the program is links to the ultimate aim of the program, which is the fact that they want you to come back and create a startup if possible after immersing yourself overseas in the program. So do your best to describe how entrepreneurship, taking initiative, immersing yourself into the startup system, and networking with fellow entrepreneurs really intrigues you, has been something that you've always been interested in, or at least has been highly interested in, and would be something that you'd like to do on this program. Yeah. So on top of that, another thing that a couple of things that they will ask you to do is entrepreneurship related CCAs. So what I would like to highly encourage is if you're in year 1 especially, or if you're coming into NUS, or even right now if you're year 2 and planning to go in year 3, I highly encourage you to take up entrepreneurship related CCA because it has been confirmed that it would bolster your chances of getting into NOC. So some examples would be NUS Entrepreneurship Society, which is a society that I'm a part of, the current Vice President and Head of Partnerships inside. Another couple of things and societies that I would recommend would be something along the lines of Protege Ventures as well as NUS Alumni Ventures. These 2 are not exactly startup related, but they are very close to venture capital, and venture capital firms generally work very well with entrepreneurial firms. In fact, even consulting might be slightly useful or useful to a certain extent. In fact, I have some friends who have come along with me on this journey who are consulting club members such as 180 Degrees, Conjunct Consulting in NUS. So overall, these are quite useful skills to have, and these are quite useful CCAs to have. It shows that you've had an existing interest in entrepreneurship already, and you've taken part in such entrepreneurial activities in the past, as well as in the CCA, and they will definitely bolster your chances of getting in. Moving into the next few points, I will briefly cover them. So what happens is that they will also ask for things like specific skill sets, additional information, your portfolio such as design or tech skills, and even possibly a pitch and a video for about a minute long about why you want to join NOC. For all of these, I did not personally fill them in except for specific skill sets because I felt that I didn't really have additional information to fill in, and my personal statement encapsulated why I wanted to join NOC quite well. For my portfolio, I used my CV to cover that. So for specific skill sets, I'm personally interested in business development, I'm interested in digital marketing, and I also am well versed in project management. Yeah, so those were the 3 skill sets that I put inside, and I highly advise whoever who is applying, if you are applying, that you should also put 3 skill sets at the very least to demonstrate your wide berth of capabilities as well as what you're well versed in. Moving on into the next 3 points, they will ask you for stuff like, have you applied for exchange before and have you gotten in? I will elaborate on this in another video, but very briefly, NUS prefers you to have gone for only one overseas trip, be it NOC or SEP or any other thing that's relevant and overseas. So the reason why they will ask you whether or not you have gone for SEP or are planning to go for SEP, firstly is because it has a possibility that it may clash with your NOC aims and your NOC timeline, and they wouldn't want that to happen. Secondly is because they want to see whether or not you have had your overseas experience already, and if you've had, it might affect your chances, but this is not a confirm. Yeah. So if you have, you can just put it in. If you don't have yet, then you can leave it out first. Yeah. So for the next 2 points is whether or not you've done any entrepreneurial related programs in NUS or in your course. So for instance, this will come in the form of IDP, Orbital, any other NUS innovation programs. So these will definitely bolster your chances because having participated in these entrepreneurial programs before, it demonstrates your interest in entrepreneurship, and it also shows that you have a certain level of competency in creating a startup, as well as a certain level of excitement, a certain level of interest, like I mentioned. Yeah, but don't worry about it if you cannot put anything or if you don't have anything to put, because I didn't put anything either. I only used my entrepreneurial CCA, and I'm in Silicon Valley now. So yeah. Other than that, I would also suggest for you to look at the next portion after that also, which is uploading of documents. So when I say uploading of documents, this is basically the points mentioned in the previous category. For uploading of documents, it would be mainly 4 documents. The first thing would be your CV. So do your best to refine it by then. Another 2 would be recommendation letters. For recommendation letters, actually I have been asked this by quite a few people. The recommended amount is 2. You must give 2 recommendation letters at least. And generally, these must come from previous employment opportunities you've had in the past. Try to give those that are related to entrepreneurship or demonstrate your skills in one way or another. For instance, I gave 2 internship opportunities that I've had in the past. One at a digital marketing firm, another one with a startup. So for both of these, what I did was business development, as well as demonstrated and learned my digital marketing skills. And this demonstrates 2 things. The first thing that it demonstrated is it backs up what you wrote in your skill set. And the second thing that it does is it demonstrates your entrepreneurial qualities. So this would definitely help you and bolster your application. However, another point to take note of for the recommendation letters is that you can actually ask someone else to do it for you, despite what it says on the website. But I would like to give a disclaimer also that they explicitly say on the website it is not allowed. However, I know that some people have actually submitted, especially if you are in an entrepreneurial society, and have asked a student leader to recommend them and sign it also at the same time. Even though this is not recommended, it is still a possibility. You can just try. However, I would like to emphasize that this should not, definitely not, be your first two recommendation letters. It should be amongst one of the third or fourth ones that you submit, because those are considered as extra and will not be considered your official recommendation letters. Do not substitute it as one of the recommendation letters that are official or one of the first two. Yes. So if you are especially like a year 1 or year 2 even currently with summer coming up, I would highly suggest to take up an internship during your summer period or maybe even the winter period. And a shout out to my NUS Entrepreneurship Society's internship channel. We have a couple of VC opportunities there, as well as other opportunities by startups. Yeah. So do feel free to check that out in my link too at the bottom for my description. So other than that, the last document that you have to upload is your transcript, which is why if you are year 1, you are actually in a very good position, because you will be able to listen to this. You'll be able to take up a lot of internships in your summer as well as in your winter. And finally, you will be able to focus on your CAP at the same time. Because, for instance, in Silicon Valley, in fact, in most of the places that you go to, you are attached to a partner university. And a lot of the time, they will ask you for your CAP. So for instance, in Silicon Valley, they will ask you, the partner university is Stanford University itself, and they will ask you for your CAP. Reason being is because the partner university will allow you to take modules while you're there. But the thing is, in the agreement, you have to have a minimum of 4.0 out of 5 for NUS to be able to take those entrepreneurial modules. And it is a hard cutoff. Even if you're at 3.99, they will definitely not allow you to take the modules. So this one is something that you must be very careful about. So all in all, your transcript, your CV, and 2 recommendation letters at least. These are points that you need to upload, as well as documents that will be useful for your future. Don't worry too much, especially regarding the transcript, if you're currently under 4.0 for your CAP, because while you're applying, it is during the semester that there is one semester before the actual NOC itself. So there is still time to buck up for your CAP and raise it above 4, hopefully. So you still have a chance. Also, another point to take note is for the personal statement, as well as listing out of your top few choices, I have with me my personal, both of these documents. And if you would like to reach out to me on my Telegram or on my Instagram, you can feel free to reach out. It's the same, it'll be in the link below, and ask me anything about it. And I can also provide the link privately to you. Okay, so personal particulars is pretty simple and straightforward. The only other thing that you would have to take note of is other CCAs, which you have to add in, which were not entrepreneurial related. So you can just add in anything else that you've taken, ranging from RC to Hall to any other societies or clubs and CCAs that you've joined during your time here. Now, we will be moving into the last 2 categories, which is awards, scholarships, and loans, as well as consent. For awards, scholarships, and loans, it is a pretty straightforward thing, in the sense that all you need to do is to just submit any of these above that you may have. And the only thing that you need to take note of, but must be very careful about, is whether or not you have any of these that clashes with the fact that you are attempting to go for a 1-year long NOC. I've previously mentioned that I know of some scholarship holders that were not able to take up a 1-year long program and are at max only allowed to go for the 6 months long program because their scholarship this allows them from going overseas out of Singapore for more than 1 year. Moving into consent, it's a pretty straightforward thing too. It summarizes a list of categories as well as the different clauses that you need to take note of, and you need to just quickly take a look through, approve of it, take a look at the final summary, and you are good to go. Overall, I would like to summarize some tips for getting into NUS Overseas Colleges. Firstly, your interest in entrepreneurship must be present in order to get into NOC. You need to demonstrate a long-standing enthusiasm and show that you would like to immerse yourself in the startup ecosystem. For instance, some interview questions that I encountered were asking me about what startup ideas I had currently, as well as what I intended to do in NOC in order to create my startup. The second point that I would like to bring up is that your resume, cover letters, and transcript must show that you possess the competency to then get into a company for your internship. You must remember that it's a two-part process, and the first part is getting into NOC. However, the second part is that you need to get into the company, and you will only be able to fly by getting accepted into both parts. To conclude, I've included some of the useful links as well as resources in the video description below, and also I've included my social media platforms channels. You can feel free to drop this video a like if it helped you, and if you are interested in knowing more or asking me for any of the resources such as the personal statement or list of interview questions that I've had, or maybe just my experience as a whole, you can feel free to reach out to me on Instagram or any of the other social media channels I've provided. Thank you, and I wish you all good luck with your application.